Hi, my name is Daniel, and the night I checked my wife's Facebook, I discovered she'd been secretly sleeping with her own cousin for years, even before she married me. One message exposed a hidden affair, destroyed 2 families, sent someone to the ICU, and turned me into the villain for telling the truth. But the craziest part? While the scandal exploded and someone ended up dead, I fell in love with the one person I was never supposed to. Divorces, arrests, betrayals, and a pregnancy nobody saw coming followed. You won't believe what happened in the end. Stay with me and let me show you how it went down.
From the outside, their life looked steady. Not flashy, not Instagram perfect, but solid. He was the dependable one, the man who packed school lunches before work and stayed up late fixing broken cabinet hinges. She was creative, warm when she wanted to be, complicated in ways he believed he understood. And the little boy, 6 years old, gap-toothed smile, Minecraft obsessed. He called him Dad without hesitation. It wasn't fireworks. It was routine, and routine to him meant safe. That night felt ordinary. The boy was asleep. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. She had gone to shower. He picked up the laptop to kill time and absent-mindedly clicked on Facebook. A notification popped up from her account. He almost ignored it. Then he read it. "I'd like to see you on your knees, sucking on my thing." He blinked. The sender's name made his brain stall. Her cousin, Max.
At first, it didn't compute. It felt like reading a sentence in the wrong language. Then his chest tightened. Her account was still logged in. His thumb hovered over the mouse. He told himself not to. Privacy, trust, boundaries. He clicked anyway. The thread opened. Max's messages were bold, shameless, suggestive. Her responses are, "Careful, stop, I'm married, you can't say that." But they weren't angry. They weren't firm. They felt playful, like a door being pushed closed without actually locking it. He scrolled further back. Weeks of this, maybe longer. His stomach dropped so fast it felt like missing a step in the dark. This wasn't some drunk late-night mistake. This was rhythm, pattern, familiarity. From the bathroom, he heard her laugh softly at something on her phone, and for the first time in years, that sound didn't feel comforting. It felt distant, like it belonged to someone he didn't fully know. Maybe it's nothing, he told himself. Maybe it's just inappropriate boundaries. But when she came out, hair damp, towel around her shoulders, she avoided his eyes for half a second too long. And that half second, it changed everything.
He didn't sleep, not really. He lay beside her, staring at the ceiling, replaying the messages in his mind like a broken trailer he couldn't turn off. Around 3 a.m., she shifted in her sleep and rested her hand on his chest. For a second, muscle memory kicked in. He almost held it. Instead, he gently moved her hand away. Morning came too fast. She left for work with a quick kiss on his cheek. "Love you," she said casually, like always. "Yeah," he replied. His voice sounded foreign to his own ears. The house went quiet, the kind of quiet that feels heavy. He told himself he was done snooping. He lasted 12 minutes. Her laptop was still on the kitchen counter. He opened her email. There it was. Subject line, "Yummy." Just that one word. His chest tightened as he clicked. The image loaded slowly, pixel by pixel, like it was giving him time to back out. He didn't. It was Max, explicit, grinning, shameless, not embarrassed, not confused, proud. Below the photo were messages, long threads, not weeks, years. He scrolled, domination games, mock insults, private jokes that made it painfully clear this wasn't new territory. Then he saw it. "Remember our old friend?" Attached was a picture of a strap-on, the same one she once told him was a college phase. His hand started shaking. Dates jumped out at him. Before their wedding, before the engagement, before he even proposed. He kept scrolling, hoping to find a line that said it ended. He found none. Instead, he found details about sneaking away during family gatherings, times he remembered searching for her at barbecues, times he assumed she was helping in the kitchen. His breath grew shallow. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't weakness. This was architecture, carefully built, sustained, protected. His stomach turned as the truth settled in. His marriage hadn't been invaded. It had been staged. He wasn't the betrayed husband. He was the camouflage. And suddenly, every "I love you" felt rehearsed. He didn't yell when she walked through the door that evening. That almost scared her more. "Hey," she said, dropping her purse. "You okay?" He slid the printed emails across the kitchen table. No speech, no warning, just paper. Her face drained of color before she even finished the first page. "What is this?" she whispered. "You tell me." She started crying instantly. Not soft tears, big, shaking sobs. "It's not what it looks like." "It looks like 10 years. He replied quietly. She denied. She minimized. She said it was just texting. She said he was reading it wrong. Then came the pivot. "You invaded my privacy." He almost laughed at that. Instead of arguing, he stood up, walked to the printer, and made more copies. If this was going to burn, it was going to burn clean. An hour later, he was parked outside Sherry's house, Max's wife, the woman who had been smiling at family dinners for years. She opened the door, confused. "Is everything okay?" "No," he said. "Not even close." They sat at her kitchen table. Same setup, same stack of papers. Sherry's hands trembled as she read. Halfway through, she covered her mouth. "Oh my God," she breathed. There was no screaming, no theatrics, just devastation. "They're cousins," she said, as if saying it out loud might make it less real. He nodded. Not distant cousins, not twice removed, close. Holiday every year cousins. Within hours, phones were ringing. Parents were calling. Screenshots were circulating. The affair wasn't private anymore. It was a wildfire. Max's parents disowned him publicly. Her family turned cold overnight. Social media buzzed with disbelief. Incest. Affair. Years. But in the middle of the chaos, one detail unsettled him most. Max wasn't answering calls. Not from his wife, not from his parents, not from anyone. By midnight, no one knew where he was, and the silence felt heavier than the scandal. The scandal didn't fade, it echoed. Family group chats went silent, church friends stopped calling, mutual friends picked sides without saying it out loud. And in the middle of the wreckage, two people kept texting each other past midnight. Him and Sherry. It started practical. Have you heard from him? No. Did your parents call? 3 times. But the practical turned personal fast. I can't breathe, she texted one night. He was at her door in 15 minutes. She opened it looking smaller than usual, wrapped in a hoodie 2 sizes too big. Her eyes were swollen from crying. I feel stupid, she whispered. You're not, he said. You were lied to. They sat on her couch, not touching at first. Just 2 exhausted people staring at a future that no longer looked familiar. Then the panic hit him. Out of nowhere, his chest tightened. His hands went numb. What if there's more, he said. What if we don't even know the half of it? She moved closer without thinking and started rubbing his shoulders slowly. Steady, grounding. Breathe, she murmured. In and out. The clinic visit was worse. Sitting side by side, waiting for HIV test results neither of them should have needed. The air felt thick, sterile, heavy. He reached for her hand without looking at her. She didn't pull away. They weren't flirting. They weren't planning anything. They were surviving. But trauma has its own gravity. Late-night calls turned into shared meals. Shared jokes about how absurd their lives had become. Shared silence that felt safer than being alone. And underneath the grief, something else flickered. Dangerous. Magnetic. They both knew it. This is messy, she said one night, searching his face. I know. But when your world collapses, sometimes the only person who makes sense is the one standing in the same rubble. And that kind of connection, it doesn't ask for permission.
The call came at 2:17 a.m. Sherry's name lit up his phone. He knew it wasn't good. Her voice was thin, fragile. It's Max. A pause. He's in the ICU. Everything inside him went still. What happened? They said he ingested antifreeze. They don't know if it was intentional or reckless. He collapsed at a gas station. For a second, he couldn't process the words. Antifreeze, ICU, brain swelling, heart complications, possible permanent damage. By sunrise, the hospital waiting room was packed with relatives who had spent the last week condemning him publicly. Now they whispered. Now they cried. Now they shook their heads and said things like,
This didn't have to happen. One aunt cornered Sherry near the vending machines. "You pushed him," she snapped. "All this exposure? Public humiliation? What did you expect?" Sherry stared at her, stunned. "He cheated on me for years." But grief makes people rewrite stories. Soon the blame spread like smoke.
They blamed Sherry. They blamed him. They blamed the confrontation. They blamed the screenshots. Anyone but Max. Inside the ICU, machines beeped steadily. Tubes, wires, a body that suddenly looked smaller and weaker than the man who once smirked in photos. Sherry stood at the window, arms folded tightly. "I hate him," she whispered. Then softer, "But I don't want him to die." He felt nothing. No rage, no pity, just emptiness. A hollow space where outrage used to live. But as the family spiraled around hospital chairs and whispered accusations, another truth quietly moved in the shadows. While everyone's attention was fixed on Max's fragile heartbeat, his wife wasn't home crying. She wasn't reflecting. She wasn't apologizing. She was already out, already dressed up, already entertaining someone new. And somehow, that felt colder than the ICU machines.
They met at the dining table again. Same table where birthdays were celebrated. Same table where their son once smeared cake icing across his cheeks and called it war paint. Now it felt like a courtroom. She didn't cry this time. That was new. "I'm tired," she said quietly. "I don't want to lie anymore." He sat back in his chair. "Then don't." The silence stretched between them. Then she said it. "I was never fully in love with you." The words didn't land like a punch. They sank slowly. Heavy. Final. "I cared about you," she added quickly. "You were good to me. You were stable. You were safe." He almost laughed. "And Max?" he asked. Her jaw tightened. No tears. Just honesty. "It started when we were teenagers," she said. "It never really stopped." The room felt smaller. "You married me," he said. "Yes." "Why?" She hesitated. "Because I needed something normal. Something respectable. My parents loved you. You had a steady job. You wanted a family. And I was convenient," he finished. She didn't argue. "You weren't supposed to find out," she whispered. That might have been the cruelest part. Not regret, not remorse. Just poor timing. He thought about every Christmas dinner, every barbecue, every time he shook Max's hand and clapped him on the back like a brother, every inside joke he didn't understand, every time he stepped away to grill burgers while they slipped into the house to grab something he never suspected. Because who suspects cousins? The horror wasn't just the betrayal. It was the realization that he had been positioned carefully, introduced, approved, installed. He wasn't a husband. He was camouflage. And suddenly, every memory felt staged, like he'd been cast in a role he didn't even audition for. The quiet after the confession was unbearable, but nothing hurt like the sound of small footsteps running down the hallway the next morning. "Dad, can you help me with my shoes?" He froze. The words still came so naturally to the boy, so innocent, so certain. He knelt down, tying the laces slowly, memorizing the moment like it might be the last time. The little hands rested on his shoulders. The tiny voice hummed a cartoon theme song. This was his real life, not the affair, not the scandal. This boy. He had been there for first words, first steps, first nightmares. He was the one in checked for monsters under the bed, the one who sat through fevers and preschool graduations. Blood didn't matter. Love did. "I'm still your dad, right?" the boy asked randomly, looking up at him. His throat tightened. Always. But adults were already turning that promise into a negotiation. His wife's tone had changed, sharper, defensive. "You're not his biological father," she reminded him during one argument. "Let's not confuse things. Confuse things." As if 6 years of bedtime stories were a clerical error. And then there was Sherry. The relationship, once a lifeline, now fueled tension. "You're replacing one family with another," his wife accused. Custody conversations turned legal fast. Papers, consultations, technicalities. The law didn't care about who packed lunches or attended parent-teacher meetings. It cared about biology. He sat alone one night, staring at the ceiling again. If he stayed, he'd be fighting constantly. Court dates, arguments, emotional warfare. If he left, he risked losing the boy who made him a father. It was an impossible choice, but survival sometimes means choosing the pain you can live with. He chose to step back, to stop fighting every day, to build something stable somewhere else. And when he hugged the boy goodbye that weekend, holding on a second longer than usual, something inside him cracked quietly. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to change him forever. Months passed, not the dramatic kind you see in movies, Just slow, ordinary days stacked on top of each other. Court dates, paperwork, quiet apartments. Therapy appointments that left them emotionally drained but strangely lighter. The divorce finalized on a gray Tuesday morning. No shouting, no dramatic exit, just signatures. Max never left the hospital. Complications from the poisoning worsened. Brain swelling, organ failure. And then one early morning, he was gone. The funeral was tense, divided, half grief, half unresolved anger. After that, the family fractured for good. His ex spiral sassed. Legal trouble, arrests, new men, unstable jobs. Chaos followed her like a shadow she couldn't outrun. He watched from a distance now, detached. Done. He and Sherry moved 2 towns over. Nothing fancy, just a small house with quiet neighbors and no history attached to the walls. They started therapy, separately and together, not to rewrite what happened, but to understand why they survived it. "This isn't some dramatic rebound, right?" she asked one night on the porch. "No," he said honestly. "It's work." And it was.
They argued sometimes, triggered each other sometimes. He still had nightmares, she still battled guilt, but they chose transparency, chose healing. Then one afternoon, she walked into the living room holding something small in her shaking hand, a pregnancy test. Positive. He stared at it like it might disappear. "You're sure?" he asked softly. She nodded, tears filling her eyes. For years, he'd believed fatherhood might never happen for him safely. Genetic risks had haunted him quietly in the background. They ran every test, waded through every anxious appointment. Finally, the doctor smiled. "The baby is healthy." He exhaled in a way he hadn't in a long time. For the first time since that Facebook message shattered everything, hope didn't feel naive. It felt earned. This story ends not in triumph, but in transformation. A man who thought he lost everything discovers the life he had wasn't real to begin with. The affair destroyed his marriage, but it exposed the illusion. And sometimes the most devastating betrayal is the doorway to the most unexpected future.
We have come to the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more interesting stories. Have a good one.